on the line. Let's go. Listen to the crowd. They know some history's on the line. The Danger Boy. Hayden Deegan. He's a world champion.
That's so awesome. What a move by Hayden Deegan.
Yeah. On his way to winning the inaugural SuperMotocross World Championship. And nobody does it better than Jet Lawrence. A million reasons to race the way he does. Jet Lawrence has done it and is the inaugural SMX World Champion.
Oh yes, finally we have done it. We have reached the end of the first ever SuperMotocross World Championship season. 31 rounds done, champions crowned, Jet Lawrence and Hayden Deegan. We've been hyping up this show, Jason Thomas and Jason Weigandt, all year. But somehow, JT, I don't know how this is possible. I think with all the year-long hype we gave this, the race either matched or maybe even exceeded it at the finale in LA.
Yeah, I go back to last October, and there were so many questions. The venues, the point structure, there was just so much change that you never really know how that's going to play out. But I don't think you could have scripted it any better than this. To go into the finale with really a six-way race for the championships across both classes, it's just not something we've ever seen before. You know, we've had it like 2006 in the 450 class, but it wasn't necessarily the same in the 250. So it's just this unique dynamic, a unique point structure, unique venues, and I think it all worked. In the end, it was a success, regardless of the metric you want to use.
Yeah, and the real key to me, and we've discussed this in other forums like our podcast, to unlock all this, the venues were cool, the hybrid tracks were cool, the big money was great, obviously. But the final piece I needed to see to know if this was going to work, would the riders and teams care? Would they go for it? Would they try? And now we have seen for certain, Ken Roczen, Joe Shimoda, Chase Sexton, even the riders that went down in defeat, they were definitely trying. They want this, and to me, that's the final stamp of approval.
Yeah, it's a new championship, right? And that takes some adoption, that takes some understanding. But I think for a lot of them, it was simply the money. The money was impossible to ignore when you're offering, $1 million for the 450 and $500,000 to the winner of the 250. And that's not to mention the payout didn't drop off that much. There was a lot of money for a lot of riders to make. So yeah, it was great. I think to keep them engaged this late in the season, there needed to be some prestige and some financial incentive for that. And we got exactly that. And I think that showed up on the racetrack. There was a lot of effort by a lot of riders being shown.
30-second board time. There are so many hot topics to run down. And it starts actually with the building. I would imagine it's a big logistical problem to hold a race like this in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum these days. But it had to be done, JT. It really did have an aura about it. Although you and I like to joke that aura is older than most of the riders racing. I don't know how many of them realize the history, but the peristyle going up and down, that's the first building that ever held a real Supercross. You had to have it. We had to race there.
Yeah, it was great. I raced there back in 1998, and I was thinking about this over the weekend. Talking to riders about that race in 1998 would have been like talking to me about a race that happened there in 1973, or even maybe the Super Bowl of motocross a year earlier in 1972. You just don't have much reference for it, right? I knew what went on similar to them. Some of them weren't even born yet. So it's a really difficult thing for them to have any perspective. But for those of us who have been around, who can remember those races and all the things that have happened out in and outside of our sport, what a great place to wrap up the inaugural SuperMotocross World Championship.
Yeah, it just completely poetic how it worked out 51 years after the first Supercross to do what that was, a combined Supercross, motocross type race in the building. Couldn't have gotten any better. And then some new and old history made here. Triumph was just really one of the oldest motorcycle brands, but it's never been involved in this particular wing of motorcycling. They've been slowly teasing that they're coming to motocross and Supercross, and then they have bikes on the track with Jeff Stanton and Ricky Carmichael on Friday. But JT, it's been so sacred for so long, I think we were afraid to even look or shoot photos or anything, but this is real now. These bikes are on the track. We're allowed to look at them.
Yeah, it was really cool to see those in the flesh. And yes, it's been a little bit like crazy mystic. You're trying to guess at what these parts are, and the marketing campaign has been interesting. But to see two legends, and obviously Jeff Stanton, you spoke with him about 1992 and that championship there, to see him ride again, which probably hasn't ridden at that race in, going on 30 years, right? So it was just a really cool part of the weekend. And it really felt like that type of weekend. All the stars were out, these new, motorcycle launches, like anything and everything. It truly was like the Super Bowl for our sport.
Yeah, to that end, so Yamaha had a bike launch on Thursday at the track. Triumph launched their bikes Saturday as part of the night show. And then in between that, Kawasaki holds their 50th anniversary party of the KX motocross line. And then they throw in the debut of the 2024 bikes, which will include a 50th anniversary edition of that bike. They did it right there on the track Friday night. Here's the best part. Kawasaki found pretty much any top rider they've ever had throughout their history. They flew them out. They had them in the suite for dinner and did interviews on Friday. It was a really good combination of heritage. Here's what you hate, JT, when someone does a documentary and a person gets left out. No one got left out of this Kawasaki party.
Yeah, that was really cool. I was down on the stadium floor when they brought Jeff Chicken Matasevich down in one of the old box vans. I was trying to figure out who it was because he had all of his helmet and goggles on and everything sitting inside the box van. But for him to go out and ride and be a part of this, and all of the history that's been a part of Kawasaki was represented there that weekend. Yeah, just a truly great job from the custom graphics on the motorcycle. I really think they knocked it out of the park across the board.
Yeah, they had Jimmy Weinert there, who was 76 Supercross champ and raced that first event at that building in 72. Brad Lackey, who actually predates the KX line beyond 51 years. Really impressive what Kawasaki put together there. Then we get to the racing, and we had teased the 3 riders in each class, winner take all, but unfortunately went bust. It's been an amazing season for Hunter Lawrence, but he comes up 1 race short.
Yeah, that was tough. It was tough to watch. You could see the pain in him when he was scooting away from his pre-race interview there. And yeah, you look back on 2023, it has been a wild success story for Hunter Lawrence. And you thought, man, he's just going to cap it off. This is the way to go out of this 250 career. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. He had a big crash on Friday. And let's just hope it's not something that lingers throughout the offseason, because he didn't look like he was very comfortable there on Saturday night.
So Hayden Deegan ends up winning this World Championship. Hunter's out, but it didn't make it easy on him. Joe Shimoda gave it everything he had. I tried to interview Deegan after a very disappointing 5th in the first moto, and he was battling for the lead at one point in that one, and he was not willing to talk. I don't even know if he realized I was there. I kept trying to get his attention, and he was in such a zone of disappointment. To think that about an hour later he was going to be holding the World Championship, it's hard to believe, but maybe that's the Deegan thing. Every time it seems like this kid's about to take a step down the ladder, he stabilizes it and comes back. I mean, that was really clutch from the 17-year-old to get this done.
It was, and I've been in a similar state of mind to where you were trying to get his attention and he wasn't recognizing that. For me, it was, I knew I was going to say something that I would regret. I wasn't able to contain my emotions. Something was going to come out of my mouth that wasn't going to be okay. So I would just try to remove myself from the situation. Now, I don't know if that's where Hayden was, but I bet he just was in no place to talk. He wasn't in a place to be cordial and talk to America yet. So sometimes you just have to know that about yourself and avoid it. But man, what a bounce back. I saw somewhere where Brian Deegan, his message to Hayden was, hey, it's not over yet, right? That's why there are 2 motos in this. We need to regroup, refocus, and come back out there. And it was a totally different Hayden in Moto 2, composed, no mistakes, was able to stay up there and do exactly what he needed to get that championship.
Let's go to the 250 final standings and prize money, the triple points. We knew that would be wild going in, but I don't think we realized how wild it was going to end up being. Jordan Smith wins the first moto and suddenly is in contention for the title. And in the end, RJ Hampshire, who JT, I felt like the playoffs were a dud for him. It was not as good as I expected it to be. He ends up 3rd. He wins $150,000 for 3rd. It was all over the map for these guys.
It was wild to watch all of those things unfold. And the triple points, again, was really what got crazy. But to see, the one that jumped off the page to me was the drop down from Hunter with missing the 3rd round. And then RJ Hampshire jumping up $100,000, right? Went from $50,000 to $150,000 with a really strong performance at the finale. So I think it will be a learning lesson for a lot of these riders as they go into 2024, knowing what can happen, knowing how incredibly important and valuable every point will be, and then how important it is to be really strong late in the series, because yeah, you can have life-changing money just from one really strong night in LA.
Okay, so we move on to our next group of 250 riders. We had amateur racing intertwined with SMX the whole time, 65s, then super minis, then the 250 World All-Stars in Los Angeles. Drew Adams, I know that's a rider you have on the radar because he's working with the right people. He's only 15 years old, but he came up with the win.
Yeah, that was really impressive. I think to be one of the younger riders and be able to step up on that stage spoke volumes, not only for his talent, but also just the perspective, the experience, the guidance. And he gets to watch, as I mentioned on the broadcast, he gets to watch Hunter and Jet every day and see them deal with real pressure, right? I'm sure Drew was nervous, but those guys are dealing with the highest levels of pressure we have in this sport, and to maintain their composure, to perform on cue, right? When everybody's watching, to be your best, which is I think what Jet Lawrence really thrives at. When the most pressure is on him is when he performs the best. That has to be rubbing off on Drew Adams a little bit. And I think that was the first sign of just that positive influence that he gets every day.
Okay, so many great stories come out of this one, JT. But unfortunately, there are downsides. We didn't really see many crashes or injuries at all at the first two rounds, but we saw a ton of big get-offs and even small ones that had a big impact at SuperMotocross Finale in Los Angeles. I guess the biggest one has got to be Chase Sexton. Had he had won that second moto, he still probably would not have won the title. He would have been edged for the overall. He would have had a 3-1, and Jet Lawrence would have had a 1-2. But for him to go out a winner, I think would have meant something, and then instead he goes out pretty banged up. That was a vicious hit for starters.
Yeah, for one, let's hope he's okay. For him to be able to walk out of the stadium, I'm hoping for the best there. The last thing you want to do is get an injury in the final race of the season. We all, we hear rumors that he's switching teams. I'm sure we'll get some sort of PR soon. But that means a lot of testing, a lot of adjustment, and a lot of change. And to start that injured is not ideal. So I think for Chase Sexton, first, it's being healthy. A little bit of disappointment, sure. But man, his pace was really impressive until it wasn't. And if you wanted to look at a synopsis of how it's gone for Chase Sexton at times this year, it's been incredible pace and an untimely crash, right? Even though he was our Monster Energy Supercross champion, there were so many weekends where the narrative was, man, if Chase could just stay off the ground. And maybe it was fitting. Maybe it was fitting for him to go out the last time, showing us again that he was ready for change, because he crashed again in the lead.
Yeah, that was Oakland, Seattle, you name it, right there once again. And he does drop back and lose his chance at the world title with that also. And then other riders, Dylan Ferrandis, don't forget, he was on the podium at our first race at Charlotte. He ends up crashing out instantly in the first moto here, loses a ton of money because he didn't come back for moto number 2. And Barsha was leading the first moto. He endos, and he was out. So we had these borderline, ooh, what could happen in this playoff contenders? Unfortunately for them, it didn't end the way they hoped.
Yeah, the Barsha one was a bummer, right? He's leading the race. We'd all been waiting for Barsha to get fully back to health, and now he looks to have this big setback again. Be interested to see what the final diagnosis was on his injuries, but again, it's the same thing as Sexton. The last thing you want to do is enter the offseason not healthy, right? It's supposed to be a time for recovery, get your body fully back, mentally prepare again so you can go into 2024 healthy, not take a giant step back and have to hopefully not be on some sort of operating table. So it was a bummer. We almost saw Jet Lawrence had the exact same crash that Justin Barsha had. And yeah, when there's that much money at stake and these guys are pushing the limit, unfortunately, these things happen.
So Sexton's out, but one other rider remained, and that was Ken Roczen. When Jet Lawrence passed him in the first moto, it looked like he was going to get away. He passed Roczen quickly. Roczen adapted. He started jumping that quad under the table that Jet was doing. He stuck with him into the end. Second moto was sticking with him there. Got thwarted by one of the Hill brothers there. Lap traffic late. But honestly, these 3 weeks, as good as we've seen Ken Roczen in a long time. It was impressive. He skipped most of the Pro Motocross Championship. To me, that helped him stay fresh physically, not worn down like he usually gets. In a short series like this, he was lightning.
Yeah, Kenny was really impressive. And I think the highlight of that for me was his ability to adjust. Now, you could take the other side of that coin and say, had he adjusted quicker, or had he be the instigator of these quicker lines, then maybe he walks out of there as your champion. But to his credit, he did figure out where Jet was faster, what Jet was utilizing to get to the front, and insert those into his own approach. So yes, if anything, I think he's learning where Jet's tricks are, where Jet has an edge on the competition, and maybe that's something he can apply to 2024. But I will probably always look back on this race and think about just Kenny being a little bit late to the punch on figuring the quad out, the different line in the sand. And when you look at where Jet was a little better, that was it. Everywhere else, Kenny was as good or better. It was just Jet being quicker to sort out a couple of sections, and that made all the difference.
So now let's talk about Jet Lawrence. I know that after a 22-0 motocross season, him winning this doesn't seem like a surprise, but there's probably a point that we didn't dig into deep enough, which is this was the first full, pretty much supercross track of these playoffs. Jet is yet to race a 450 supercross, and he ended up beating Chase Sexton straight up, passed him, left him in the first moto. That put him in position to do that without having ridden a 450 supercross race before. Just another impressive performance.
Yeah, Jet is, we have to remember he is brand new to Supercross, as you mentioned, and a nod to Will Christian bringing that up during the broadcast is he doesn't have experience sorting out the bike, working through changing conditions about how that's going to affect the motorcycle. And to that point, I walked over to Honda HRC on Friday afternoon after their free practice, and the bike was completely torn down. The forks were off, the shock was off, they were making chassis adjustments, which speaks to Jet working through this process, changing track, changing traction, and how does Jet respond to the bike? Like, I think he's still learning how the bike's going to react in those conditions, but boy, did he figure it out Saturday night, and he was innovating. He was the guy that everybody was looking to, okay, what's the fastest way through this section? Let's see what Jet's doing, right? So to be 20 years old and not ever having truly raced a 450 Supercross yet, a Monster Energy Supercross, and everybody already kind of taking his lead as far as how to approach the racetrack, it bodes very well for Jet Lawrence, to say the least.
Okay, let's talk the actual payout, because we've been teasing this, the $5.5 million on the line in SMX all year. So let's show how this actually looks. First at the top, the big story is that Jet Lawrence gets $1 million as your 450 champ, but let's not forget, JT, there are individual race purse bonuses as well. $100 grand winning last week and this week, for example, just for winning the race. So that pushes it way over $1 million total for him.
Yeah, money everywhere. And I guess if you're the best in the world at anything, there's going to be a lot of money involved with it. But yes, the financial consideration for these races could be felt everywhere. Didn't matter if you talk to Jet Lawrence or a privateer, the money was top of mind. And it's a great thing. You know, some of them it's going to affect more than others, but it was something that was on every rider's mind going into this finale.
And then we know the story at the top, like we said, Jet Lawrence and Hayden Deegan win, but it's not just winning this World Championship. It's symbolic of how quick the sea change has come. We started this year celebrating the brilliance of Eli Tomac, who is now out with injury. He will be back. But to think that 450 rookie Jet Lawrence wins 2 titles in a row in his first 2 450 shots at it, and Hayden Deegan, who was an amateur a year ago, wins this and was so great throughout the regular season. Wow, that is a bright future for this sport.
Yeah, whether it's the stars of Saturday night, you know, Jet Lawrence, Hayden Deegan are both incredibly young, and they take home championships, 2 of the youngest riders in both classes. You think about the 250 World All-Stars, you think about the Super Minis, and then you go back to those 65s that are jumping triples in Charlotte. Across the board, there is so much talent. We've got a glimpse and a snapshot of what's to come, and it certainly looks awesome.
Yeah, if the future is Lawrence brothers and Deegan battling both on and off the track, that's going to be really fun to watch. Well, they say history is written by the winners, so let's hear what they have to say. It's Jet Lawrence in the 450 class, Hayden Deegan in the 250 class, and also Yamaha wins the SMX Manufacturers Cup. So we'll hear from Jeremy Coker of that team. Here are their thoughts post-race.
Jet, you always talk about these wins. Every time you're on the podium, you talk about the team, us, we, everything that's gone into it. And with you now, Christian Deschamps, you've been together now as a team for 5 years. you can't do this without each other. This is like not taken away from you, Jet, but this man next to you, you give him props. You tell us how important it is. So just for everybody at home, that relationship that you two have, what does it mean and how does it get you here to this point?
It's been awesome. I mean, since the first time I got here to America, he's been my mechanic. We were sharing actually with Hunter Yoda, and it's just been awesome. The bond's just been getting stronger and stronger. He puts the hard work, and the rest of the team does also, and it helps me and have that motivation and drive to make sure on the weekend I perform, just not for myself but for them, because once I'm on the track, that's more my control. So I make sure I take control of that and do the best I can, and so I show my respect in that way to the guys who are at the shop working hard, especially Christian.
And now all that goes in, Christian, you get to stand here now. You guys are now champions at the end of this extra long season here. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the rest of the team, knowing the work that's gone in behind the scenes and hearing the words come out of Jet like that?
I mean, obviously that's the whole goal, right? Is to provide him a bike to go out there and do his job on to the highest capabilities he can and to win. And when you win, that gives you the extra motivation to the whole team to collectively work harder and harder to give him everything he needs to do his job. And then it makes our job obviously a lot easier too.
The nerves, Christian, the nerves. I know you always wear this smile, but the nerves for you must be unbelievable when you know you've gotten to this point and you're so close. How do you manage to just keep it all under control?
I mean, you just keep doing what you do. I'm confident in myself and to provide him a motorcycle that he can do his job on. The biggest thing he needs to know is that it's good when he goes out. So if he's questioning himself before the question the bike's good, this and that, then he's not going to be performing good. So just try to hold it all in and give the best we can.
Well, collectively, you guys got the job done. Very happy for you. Huge congratulations, and go have a lot of fun over at the hauler tonight. I know it's going to be a good time. JT, over to you.
Well, from one championships duo to another, I'm here with Hayden Deegan and Brent Duffy, the 250 SMX champions of the night. And Hayden, you've had all of an hour to soak this in. Walk us through your thoughts. Friends and family here, a building that has meant so much to your family. And yeah, I'm sure it's going to soak in more and more over the next days. But yeah, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, this is a dream come true. It's I was feeling it a lot right after the race, but it's kind of dull right now. It's you don't know really how to think right now. It's a dream come true, rookie season to win my first championship, and yeah, it's a lot of hard work, dedication into this sport, and yeah, we just got to keep building. It's only up from here too.
And for Brent, I'm very interested in the last moments before a race, right? It's just you and your rider, and there's always something to be said, right? Last words of encouragement, something just to get him set up for success in that moto. Like, what is that relationship like, and what are those words like in those final moments before he takes off?
Yeah, it's different with every rider you work with, and going into this race, it was you had to win, like you just as good as you could. So Hayden responds really well to motivation, so we fired him up, and I think I fired him up just enough for that. That's perfect. Yeah.
I got Duff hit me on the back, get me fired up, and then throw the headphones on, just straight David Goggins speech. That's all. I don't listen to no music. It's just straight David Goggins, dude. Just how hard do you want to be, man? Come on.
Well, congratulations. Both of you deserve it. And, yeah, have a great offseason. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And along with those championships, we have a Manufacturers Cup in the inaugural SMX Championship. Now, it appeared that Honda was winning everything this year, but remember, Hunter Lawrence did not race and didn't score any points in the 250 division. The Manufacturers Cup is determined by each brand's best finish in each class at all 3 rounds. So Yamaha ends up pulling this one out. I'm going to introduce Mike Pelletier, the director of racing for the AMA, to hand Jeremy Coker, a Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing, the Manufacturers Cup.
Thanks, Jason. The riders do an incredible job on the racetrack, but it certainly takes a team to win at this level. So on behalf of the AMA Pro Racing, Feld Entertainment, MX Sports Pro Racing, I'm proud to present you with the 2023 SMX Manufacturers Cup to Yamaha.
Look, I don't think there's a team out there that wants to win worse than you guys. It's been tough. The Lawrence brothers and Chase Sexton are tremendous competitors. You guys never gave up. They didn't win everything this year. You got the title with Hayden Deegan, and I know you're going to come back even stronger next year to try to get more.
Yeah, of course. All the props out to those guys. It's been a good season for them. We've been in this position, and it's a really cool thing. So to win this, it's a pretty good thing. It's something we've been close to multiple times, and Honda's actually taken it from us. So being able to do this year, it's a good thing. We'll come back next year and try to win the actual championships.
And we talked to the riders about how much money they can make in this SMX series. talk about the effort level that your team put in to come back for 3 more weeks and really focus and try to get this done in the first year.
Yeah, it's actually a really big effort. You know, to add 3 races, but not only that, to hybrid tracks, to a more motocross track, back to a supercross track, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work on the entire team, the suspension department, the engine department. People don't see that. So the work that those guys put in and able to do that and then to perform, to come out and win this is really cool.
All right, yeah, that is definitely hard work and hard earned. Yamaha is your Manufacturers Cup champion in 2023 SMX.
Fowler's Facts time. Let's bring in our staff statistician to crunch real numbers this time, Clinton Fowler. We're going to talk money, and you and I were texting actually throughout these final main events live in Los Angeles to try to get a perspective on what was happening, not just for Jett Lawrence or Hayden Deegan, but for everybody else. There's some big movers and unfortunately some that moved out of big money.
Yeah, Weege, these are the real numbers. These are the numbers that get into their bank accounts, and some big winners in LA and a couple unfortunate that lost a fair amount of money. So let's get into the winners. On the incredible side, Hayden Deegan, obvious, went 2 positions improvement. That's $350,000 extra dollars from where he entered the night. RJ Hampshire also 2 positions, going from 5th to 3rd. He added $100,000 to his bank from where he was coming before. And Adam Cincerulo, he improved 4 positions, going from 10th to 6th. And that was an increase of $60,000 and a total of $135,000. So some incredible nights from those guys. But JT, those guys are factory guys. The ones that really stick out for me that I think probably have a massive impact: Colt Nichols improved by 2 positions, Ty Masterpool by 2 positions, and Josh Hill by 3. In total, they took $90,000, $75,000, and $27,000, JT. As privateers, that's got to be an incredible impact for their life.
Yeah, the difference is significant, right? Because some of them on the plus side are going to be rounding errors for some of these factory riders, but the privateers, this could be the difference in whether they get to continue racing or not. And that sounds like hyperbole, but in some situations, it's absolutely the difference about which races they can attend. Can they do a full series or not? Do they have to work a part-time job during the week? So it's just a great aspect, and this has never happened before. We've never had a points fund like this, and it's truly a godsend for many of these riders.
Yeah, one of the best scenarios there is Hill was actually 23rd coming into this race. He wasn't going to make any of the bonus money because you have to be top 22. He jumped back in, and that led to the $27,000 or so that he made. So great job there. But for all the riders that gained, obviously some are going to lose positions. So who lost money with the way the final round shook out?
Yeah, and a couple of unfortunate situations for a few of these guys. Chase Sexton on his birthday didn't exactly get the gift he was hoping for. He came in a position to have $1 million. He left in 3rd in only $250,000, so $250,000 for him. But still, that's $750,000 that he lost on paper. Hunter Lawrence, obviously that injury is devastating to his ability to line up in the night program. He moved from 1st all the way down to 9th. He went from a potential $500,000 to just $16,000, so lost $484,000. And then the one that really catches me is Dylan Ferrandis, JT. He lost 9 positions, so he went from 5th to 13th. But really interesting what happened throughout the night. He goes in, first moto, crashes in the first turn, gets a wind knocked out of him. He leaves the stadium, attempts to come back in on the red flag, is turned away. We know that's against the rules. But then he doesn't line up for Moto 2. And so he loses $116,000, all because he's not back there for Moto 2, or at least he misses the opportunity to get those points in Moto 2. So JT, that one just has me confounded. It's just confusing.
Yeah, the Dylan Ferrandis one is very confusing. I'm not sure if he knew. Maybe there was a part of the story we don't know about, but to not participate in Moto 2 seemed, it's just strange, right? So I'd love to know more there. The Hunter Lawrence one, you know, when I did the interview, if I was Hunter Lawrence and I had to do an interview with Will Christian before the race and I had known that I was going to lose that much money, I would be crying, not only from the back pain he was suffering, but from that financial loss. It would just be a tear-filled interview with Will Christian. He handled it well. I know he was in a situation where there was nothing he could do about it. He just could not race, and he was told that this could be serious. You could do real damage and really impact 2024. So he handled it well in typical Hunter Lawrence fashion. He was composed, but man, that is a lot of money to leave on the table.
All right, so congratulations to these riders for getting the money, and I guess unfortunate for those who ended up losing a little bit in the end. Although they all made money, they just didn't make as much as they expected. But to make this all happen, and JT and I marveled over this even at the top of the show, the elevating point structure and how exciting that kept things to the end. Clinton, I believe you had a hand in that. So just tell me how you folks got there and some of the data you used to create what ended up being a very compelling triple point scenario at the end.
Yeah, we took a look last year about this time after our visit to the Coliseum last year. We took a look and did some modeling, and we used the existing point structure and a couple of other versions. And really the intent was to make sure that we could come down to the final round. And then even more important was to make sure there's enough points on the table to bring some variability, to bring the potential for a guy like Jordan Smith, who's down 27 points entering in, and have a shot at winning the title. So yeah, a lot of work went into figuring out that escalating point scale.
JT, we were wondering who was behind it. It was this guy right here.
Well, king of the calculator himself, surely could figure out some scenarios to make this thing interesting. So kudos to you, kudos to everyone involved, because every single step of the way, the points were all over the map. We never knew who was going to win until the very, very end.
Yep, that was the goal for sure. That was really, really exciting. So Clinton, thanks for all the help. And we'll bring it all back next year, because we do have the official 2024 Monster Energy Supercross and Pro Motocross calendars already available, and we'll have the SMX schedule pretty soon. So let's show you where we're going to be racing in what we'll call the regular season in 2024.
Robson's down. There it is.
KTM out front. Biel, no, he's too far outside.
Oh, yeah, it was great. We got to roll out that schedule at the pre-race press conference in Los Angeles. As soon as you see Anaheim 1 and the date and the calendar, not like it's a surprise, but it just puts you back in that zone. There's no race quite like that one. And as I said, we're playing the hits. We're coming back to the places that you love at the dates that you're used to throughout the calendar, with a couple of new things in there.
Yeah, it's going to be a great thing. We got a new schedule, right? Some new venues. Play the hits, as you mentioned, at some of the others. And still, we're waiting in this, Super Motocross World Championship playoff schedule is looming too. So there's still some suspense there. But I think the addition, what 2024 is going to look like, a lot of reasons to be excited.
Less than 100 days until Anaheim 1, everyone. You can enjoy your off season, but we will stay with you. We'll have a season in review episode of SMX Insider next week. We will also produce, as side content here on this YouTube channel, a Motocross of Nations preview that JT and I will put together as well. So don't go anywhere. We'll keep coming at you with news throughout the off season, including the season in review next week on SMX Insider.